What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB Friday, June 11th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top DFS picks for today's MLB slate.
And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, we have a 13 game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. Now if you want to pay up at pitcher, Jacob deGrom is in a great spot. He's expensive, but he should be worth it here tonight. There's a lot of value on this slate, so I think you can play deGrom no problem. 13 game slate, lots of options. But the pitcher that I'm looking at here, if you want to save some salary and stack those bats, take a look at Aaron Savall. With a 3% pitching advantage over a low salary batting team, the Seattle Mariners. Aaron Savall, he's giving up a .701 OPS versus lefties, so he pitches his best ball versus lefty batters, and he's facing 6 lefties here tonight. Now, the Mariners have only hit 1 of his last 8 pitches. That sample size is way too small. It's a good start, but it's just the sample size is too small to get a good read on that. But I love the splits, and Aaron Savall is $8,000 FanDuel salary, and he's $400 more on DraftKings. Projected at 21.6 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can score at least 25 to 30 fantasy points. He has an ERA of 3.49. His record is 8-2 on the season, pitching an average of 99 pitches per game, averaging 33 fantasy points per game. He scored 24, 9, and 49 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So you got a wide range of outcomes, but he's in a great spot here tonight. You're going to save a lot of salary to stack your bats. So I like Aaron Savall here versus the Seattle Mariners. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. I like Trey Mancini with a 32% batting advantage over Ryan Yarbrough. Trey Mancini is batting 28% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.029 OPS versus lefties. And Ryan Yarbrough throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .727 OPS versus righties. Now I like this pick because Trey Mancini is 5 for 17, batting a .294 batting average and a 1.133 OPS versus Yarbrough. He's got 2 home runs out of those 5 hits and 2 doubles. And he's only $3,000 FanDuel salary. He's $1,900 more on DraftKings, projected at 11.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 10, and 6 fantasy points in his last 3 games. So I like Trey Mancini here versus Ryan Yarbrough. Okay, I also like Will Smith with a 57% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Mike Foltz. Will Smith is batting 27% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .972 OPS versus righties. And Mike Foltz, he throws his worst ball by far to righty batters, 30% worse than his other pitches, giving up a 1.615 OPS versus righties. Now there's no at-bats versus Foltz yet, but Will Smith is only $2,600 FanDuel salary. He's $2,100 more on DraftKings, projected at 10 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6 and 6 fantasy points in his last 2 games. So I like Will Smith here versus Mike Foltz. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Chris Taylor with a 27% batting advantage over that same low salary pitcher, Mike Foltz. Chris Taylor is batting a .835 OPS versus righties, and Mike Foltz, we know, throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a 1.615 OPS versus righties. Chris Taylor is 3 for 5, batting .600 with a 1.6 OPS versus Foltz. He's $3,300 FanDuel salary and $1,100 more on DraftKings. Projected at 9.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 9, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Chris Taylor here versus Mike Foltz. Okay, now if you're looking for a value play, take a look at Tony Kemp with a 73% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Brady Singer. Tony Kemp is batting 40% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .762 OPS versus righties, and Brady Singer, he throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, 33% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .922 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Singer yet, but Tony Kemp is only $2,100 FanDuel salary. He's $1,000 more on DraftKings, projected at 8.6 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 0, and 12 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Tony Kemp here versus Brady Singer.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Juan Moncada with a 23% batting advantage over Tarik Skubal. Juan Moncada is batting a .702 OPS versus lefties, and Tarik Skubal, he throws his worst ball versus switch hitters, giving up a 1.059 OPS versus switch hitters. I like this pick because although it's not a huge sample size, Juan Moncada is 2 for 4, batting .500 with a .900 OPS versus Skubal. He's only $2,500 FanDuel salary, although he's $2,600 more on DraftKings, so I love that FanDuel price. He's projected at 9.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 0, 7, and 9 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Juan Moncada here versus Tarik Skubal. Okay, who do we have at the shortstop position? I like Tim Anderson with a 62% batting advantage over that same pitcher, Tarik Skubal. Tim Anderson is batting 32% better versus lefty pitchers, batting a 1.095 OPS versus lefties. And Tarik Skubal, he pitches 30% worse to righties as he does lefties, giving up a .832 OPS versus righties. And I like this pick because Tim Anderson is 3 for 4, batting .750 batting average and a 2.8 OPS versus Skubal. He has 2 doubles and a home run. He's $3,700 FanDuel salary and $1,400 more on DraftKings. Projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 21, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Tim Anderson here versus Tarik Skubal. And for the same price on FanDuel and just $300 more on DraftKings, I also like Xander Bogaerts. I know I picked this guy a lot, but he's a great batter. He's just on fire this season. I've been riding the hot hand of Xander Bogaerts every time he's in a favorable matchup, and that's the case here tonight. He's got a 23% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Ross Stripling. Bogaerts is batting a .869 OPS versus righty pitchers, and Ross Stripling throws his worst ball to righty batters, 30% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .988 OPS versus righties. And Bogaerts is 2 for 6, batting a .333 batting average and a 1.166 OPS versus Stripling. He's $3,700 FanDuel salary, $1,700 more on DraftKings, projected at 10.8 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 18, 22, and 6 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So I like Xander Bogaerts here versus Ross Stripling. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I like Michael Brantley with a 34% batting advantage over a low-salary pitcher, Matt Shoemaker. Michael Brantley is batting 20% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .879 OPS versus righties, and Matt Shoemaker, he throws his worst ball versus lefty batters, 14% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .895 OPS versus lefties. And Michael Brantley is 1 for 3, batting a .333 batting average and a .666 OPS versus Shoemaker. He's only $3,000 FanDuel salary, and he's only $800 more on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites. He's projected at 10.9 fantasy points here tonight, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 16, 9, and 7 fantasy points in the last 3 games. And I like this pick because Vegas thinks this is going to be a high-scoring game. 10.5 runs scored in this game. That's their over-under. So I like Michael Brantley here versus Matt Shoemaker.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.